What is one of the biggest risks of crypto that nobody is talking about? That's going to be the topic of today's video. Hi everyone, so if you're a high net wealth individual or an expat in particular, go over to adamfire.com and see how I can help you. Now on this video, I'm going to talk about one of the main risks that people aren't talking about when it comes to crypto. And that risk is what's happening in the government sector at the moment. So right now, more and more governments are going towards digital currency. So the digital yuan, obviously in China, but also digital pound, digital USD, digital euro and so on, but it's at a very early stage apart from in China. And the China example is a very interesting one because they banned private cryptocurrencies, but they're very much looking for their own state-controlled digital currency. And I think one of the biggest risks that could happen is not so much governments being very heavy-handed and banning cryptocurrency like China has, although you never know. I mean, nobody would have thought the lockdown would have happened even in democracies 2 or 3 years ago. You never know if a terrorist attack is started by somebody who is funded by cryptocurrency, what the political backlash could be, but I don't think that's a huge risk. What I think is a bigger risk is that basically once governments have the technology where they want it, they'll start to offer incentives to the private individual, the private investor and institutional investors to swap their private crypto, I know as Bitcoin, Ethereum and so on. In other words, if you've got a digital pound and the government says, well look, in the next 12 months, if you swap your private currencies for our digital pound, we'll give you 5% interest. You might think, yeah, but 5% interest, that's nothing, right? The average return of the stock market has been double that since 1945, and many crypto investors want much more than that. But that's not the point. The average person in the street has loss aversion. So if they think they can get a stable fixed return in a digital pound or a digital US dollar or a digital euro, the number of people who will go for it will kind of skyrocket. I think that's an absolutely huge risk for the crypto market. Basically, governments will take over the sector, and this will be an example of the saying, a victim of your own success, because basically when crypto was small, governments didn't pay much attention to it. They just thought it's a speculative investment, which actually even people who advocate crypto say it's speculative. But the point is, because the actual technology could be useful for governments, governments could take over the sector and then actually offer incentives for people to kind of go away from the private coins. Apart from that, another big risk, of course, is people forget that with the technology boom in the late 90s, most of the tech stocks went to zero, even though the NASDAQ and the big boys went crazy. I mean, the NASDAQ has done 12 or 13% since the late 90s, and obviously the winners like Amazon and Apple, whatever, have done more than that. But most tech stocks have gone to zero. Most of them did not succeed because they didn't produce revenue and so on. And I think with the whole crypto thing as well, even if the first risk I pointed out doesn't come to pass, the actual danger is that only 1 or 2 private coins will succeed. In other words, the coins with the best technology will be the ones that are left standing, and they make the lion's share of the gain, and all these thousands of other coins go to zero. It is possible, as the technology sector showed in investing, it is possible to have almost a winner takes all in many sectors, but it's more likely to happen in technology, where basically the actual sector does well, but only a small number of firms actually gobble up that market share. And I think with the whole digital currency space, it is a risk that basically the last man standing, so to speak, will either be government or government and private coins, and only 1 or 2 of those private coins will succeed. I think that's a huge risk for people who are buying, say, tens or hundreds of cryptocurrencies. But at the end of the day, it's still a new thing. Nobody can predict the future. Nobody would have predicted a few years ago that China would have banned Bitcoin, but really have gone towards their own digital currency. Nobody knows the future for sure, but it's for sure a huge risk out there that governments could incentivize people via a fixed return to kind of essentially trade in their private coins. How can I help you? In 2 ways. First of all, are you an expat, a high net wealth individual, or just somebody who lives in a part of the world where it's difficult to get access to quality investment solutions? In which case, go onto my website on adamfire.com and find out more. If you don't fit into any of those categories, then in which case there's a range of free material on my website, on this YouTube channel, and indeed on my Quora, where I get over 200 or have received over 231 million views in the last few years. And finally, if you want to actually read my thoughts in more detail, go onto Amazon and find my book on there.